Welcome to Real Estate Stories. My name is Cody Coda. My co-host is Jake McClure.
Hello.
All right.
Hello, Jay.
How are you?
I'm
we've got
Margaret. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Margaret.
Our special guest today is Margaret Davis. Margaret, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I have been in the business for going on 32 years. I started when I was 3. And I have been a Century 21 agent all of those years.
Wow.
What more can I say? I obviously love it, or I wouldn't still be here.
Right.
Well, that's
You've
awesome.
probably experienced a whole lot of change in the 32 years being in real estate. It's taken quite a road from where it used to be.
Boy, has it ever. When I started in the dark ages, we had no internet, of course.
Right.
We had no cell phones. We didn't have lock boxes. We had to pick up keys from offices. Periodically, we would get sheets from other offices in town of their listings. It was weird. I mean, we didn't think it was weird then because we didn't know any better. We had nothing to compare it to. But you just think of all the time it would take to run around and pick up keys.
Right.
And for those agents who were not very motivated, they just probably wouldn't show those properties because it took too much time.
Was real estate your first chosen profession? Have you always done it, or did you have a career before you got into real estate? Or
I did. I was business manager at Texas A&M in Bryan College Station, Texas. I'm a Texas gal.
Okay.
And so I moved here in September of '86, and I did really nothing for about a year and a half. I played tennis, had long lunches, got to know the people in the area, did some modeling, of which I had previously done, and got involved with a lot of the 501c3 organizations that I love to help. And I realized that I had a son who at that point in time was a senior in high school, and he was going to be going back off to college to Texas A&M soon. And I really didn't like not having something structured. I'd been a career lady all my life, and so I'd always had an interest in real estate, but my job in Texas really would not have allowed me to do that because of the time constraints. So I thought, you know what, this is a good time for me to get into the business. And so I did. And the rest is history. Been doing it a long time.
What keeps you in real estate, Margaret?
I work long hours. I probably invest 60 to 80 hours a week in it. So obviously I love it. I'm very competitive with myself. I'm not competitive with other people, but I'm competitive with myself. So it just excites me to do a deal, whether it's listing a new property, whether it's selling a new property. I get such joy out of that because obviously it's a people business and I enjoy people. So most of the time.
What do you think makes you successful in it?
I don't know really the answer to that other than my work ethic. I think that is key because when I started it, I hung out. This was in the days when, we didn't have cell phones and we had a lot of floor time. And so I would hang out at the office. And so when people didn't show up for their floor time, I would be there to take it. For walk-ins, the same way. I'd take anything, you know. So I was there all the time, weekends, holidays, you name it. And I don't know. I think the people in the community, the office was located in a very in an area where everybody could see and everybody knew my vehicle. So they'd see my car all hours of the day and night and on weekends at the office. So the community realized that I was very serious about real estate. So I think that really was very good for me because people knew then my work ethic. So I guess maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
So do you think
I'm
it
friendly,
started with
outgoing person. I'm
do
sorry.
you think it started with like how you took your role as an agent, as a profession, you took it very seriously, and then in turn people treated you, you know, seriously because they saw how seriously you treated it?
I really do believe that had a lot to do with it. I never showed up in, you know me, Cody, you've met me. I learned at Texas A&M that you had to dress. If you wanted to be a professional, you had to first look like a professional.
Right.
And to this day, I don't hang out in sweats or jeans or any of those things. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it would not be me.
You saying even at home you're not wearing some sweatpants lounging around?
Well, I'm not at home very much, Joe.
All right.
No.
Fair point.
So, you know, I do occasionally, but I'm not home very much. Usually when I get home, it's late and I do pajamas.
Right.
Margaret, what advice would you give your past self if you could go back in time and kind of, you know, whisper some words of wisdom in your own ear? What do you think you would advise you'd give your past self?
This probably will surprise you a bit, but I probably would say take a little time for yourself and smell the flowers. Because I remember back in those days, you know, for a year and a half that I'd lived here before I got into real estate, I played tennis a lot. So once I got into real estate, I had no time to play tennis. And I know my friends would call and they would say things like, listen, we can play at night, we can play, you name the time, we just want you to come play with us. And I really couldn't do that because, you know, we played doubles, and it would have been a situation where if I would have just been inconveniencing me, that would have been okay. But I would have been inconveniencing 3 other people if I committed to something and then didn't show up. And of course, the work came first and foremost. If I had customers that, you know, called at the last minute, I was there to help.
That's great advice, especially for somebody that's as driven as you are. I mean, I could see why you would tell your former self that. How long did it take for you to get your first closing?
Almost 6 months, 5.5 months.
Wow. Was it a buyer? Was it a listing? Do you even remember?
You know, I remember, I think I got a listing in about 3 months after I was in the business. And this was a buyer that I closed on in about 5.5 months. So I remember when I started, I walked into the broker's office and I said, I just want you to know, I can't even imagine my saying this, but he told me I did. I said, I'm going to be your top agent. Give me 1 year.
Wow.
And
you prophesized that, huh?
And that's exactly what it took. My first year I did okay, even though it was a slow start. I didn't have a closing until it was almost 6 months. But I didn't do bad. And, but then my second year, I did pretty good.
So you say like you can't, you don't really remember saying that. Is that what you had mentioned, that you sent that to your broker, but you don't remember saying something like that?
I did. He reminded me of it, you know, many years later that I said that. And I kind of remember that, but it seems.
What do you think that is? Because I've heard a lot of other successful people kind of take that stance and attitude on things. It's almost like they go ahead and write the check,
Yeah,
just to ensure that they're going to be able to cash it, kind of thing, to hold themselves accountable to hit. Is that what it is, kind of, for you when you make statements like that, of just making like a public accountability type of
ownership?
Yeah.
I was saying that to hold myself accountable. Yes,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think so, because I knew then what that was going to take.
That's awesome. What did your support look like when you first got into the business?
It was absolutely zero, literally zero. I didn't have any training. I think I told you guys that what I did is I came in every morning. I hung out at that office, and I would listen to the phone calls that came in. I would observe what the other realtors said to people when they came in. I would kind of listen to some of the conversations. I really had no training. It was just, come in here, this is a desk you can have, and here's your telephone.
Did you have like a mentor or someone that you looked to that was like your guiding light in real estate, or was it just kind of dog eat dog, do your thing and figure it out?
Figured it out. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice.
What's your support look like today?
I have an assistant. I'm not a techie person.
Okay.
So she does that for me. She schedules appointments for me. She puts my listings in. I try to get most of my emails sent to her, and then she forwards the ones to me that I need. And you know, my office, we're just like a family here. We help one another. So if I'm up here needing something and one of them's here, I can ask them for help and they give it to me, or vice versa.
What was the point that you decided to hire an assistant, that you thought it to be worth it? Was it, you know, halfway through your business then did you see any kind of real change in your business after you hired an assistant? What did that look like?
Well, it probably was something that evolved, because, you know, during all of this time, we're coming into an age of where we have computers and the internet.
Right.
And so it's kind of difficult to know where that kicked in. Mm-hmm. But it certainly does help my stress level a lot to have somebody that does that for me.
I bet.
That's awesome. So what disillusions did you uncover that you may have had from when you first got into the business?
Oh, well, a big one. Isn't all that realtors do to go show a big property, drive a big fancy car, collect a big fat paycheck? That's all they do, right?
Yeah. Something like that.
Thinking, when is that going to happen?
Right.
So, as I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, I kept thinking, my goodness, when does this happen? Well, of course, it never did happen, you know. But I still think that people have that perception of us many times. That we don't really do much to make the big bucks that we all make.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. Who's your inspiration and why?
You know, I don't know that would be any one person. I work in a lot of organizations that are really dear and close to my heart. And so I really do believe that those are the people that inspire me. One of the organizations that I'm very heavily involved in is Project Safe. We have a shelter for abused women and children. And I'm on a different side of that. I help raise money. I serve on the board and do a lot of things to help there. But I see those people who day in and day out are on the front lines of that organization and so many others that I'm involved in. That one just happens to be the one that I work with the most and that's closest to my heart. But I think it's people those are the kinds of people who inspire me. They inspire me to be a better person.
That's
because
awesome.
of what they do.
That's really good. Okay, so this is going to switch gears here on us. What's been your most embarrassing real estate story that you could think of?
Oh gosh. I've probably had so many that I really didn't even recognize. But I can tell you a couple, and they really had the same end result. I was at a home inspection one day, and it was a big house. And I came running from one end of it to the other, and not remembering that there was a step down in one of the rooms. And here I am, in my tall heels and dress, and I'm just running. For what reason, I have no clue. And the next thing I know, I have missed the step down, and I go sailing through that room. Fortunately, there were boxes in there that caught me to keep me from going through a window.
Wow.
But the next thing I knew, I'm kind of looking around.
Did anybody see it?
So I'm trying to work my way up, and here comes the cleaning lady who's over there, helping pack and cleaning as they go. And then the home inspector comes through there, and they didn't literally know whether to call 911 or to come try to pick me up or whatever. So there I was, just sprawled out in the middle of the floor. And it was not probably 3 months ago that I had a similar incident. I was in Yukon, Oklahoma City, it doesn't matter where, showing property to some folks. And we were in an addition, and here I am, we just moved from one spot to another. So here I am running up to beat them to get there so I can get all the lights on, be Miss Efficient. So I'm running like crazy. Now, I had just had some surgery. Was not even supposed to be working, of course. But anyway, here I'm running up there to get inside the house to get the lights on and everything. And of course, there was a step up to the walkway to the house. Well, of course, I'm just looking for where the lockbox is. They're in crazy places. Well, of course, I totally missed the step up. I see myself, because these things happen so quickly, I see myself going into this big stone column. And I'm thinking, please, Lord, help me not to go into that, because the teeth would have probably come out. The face would have been totally horrible. And here I'm thinking all of that, don't even know where the people are that are coming to see the house. So as I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I'm sprawled out, and it's a combination, there's a little grass been planted, but it's a whole bunch of just dirt because it's a brand new home. So the yard hadn't been completed. Here I am with dirt all over my face. Here comes the people walking up, and I'm sprawled out on the dirt, a little bit of grass. And they go, oh my gosh, do we need to call 911? I was so embarrassed. But anyway, I managed to get up, get the dirt all off of my face and brushed off my clothes. And, you know, I hobbled around, but they didn't know I was hobbling around.
Hey,
So the things we do.
that's me on the daily. I've got a story for like that at least once a week. Don't feel bad. What's been the scariest story for you?
You know, fortunately, I've not had a real scary story. Some of that maybe just because I don't live in fear. You know, I pray a lot, and I feel like God surrounds me with his grace and protection. But, you know, back in the day when we didn't hear as many stories as we do today about being careful, I had a little pause one day. This person called and he told me that he was a truck driver and that he went from the East Coast to the West Coast several times a week, a couple of times a week, and that he had always loved, when he would pass through Shawnee, he thought this was a neat little place and he would love to buy a home here. And so we make an appointment and I go to pick him up on a Saturday morning. All I have for him is a telephone number. And so I go to pick him up and I see the big truck there at the hotel. And here he comes to get in the car. Well, there's two of them, not just one. So that gave me a little bit of a pause, but I had told some of my coworkers that I was going to be going to pick up some people or to pick up one person that I didn't know. And that I needed probably to call in to when I got to somewhere to let them know I was okay and things were all right. So, so I did. When I got to the first place, I acted like I needed to call in for something to check on. And of course, they were perfectly just wonderful. And I sold him a home here. But I think the part that gave me a little bit of butterflies in my stomach was when I picked them up and there were two of them instead of one.
Who was that second person? Was it like the son or something? Or?
Just someone who happened to be traveling with him that time across country. So, but it turned out just great.
Yeah, that's not bad. What about most uncomfortable moment for you? What's been the most stressful or uncomfortable?
Oh, that one was really tough. Easy to tell you about this one. I had a 4-domino effect situation. 2 of them closed on a Friday afternoon. The other 2 were closing on Monday morning. So on Sunday night, I called one set of them, who would have been the 4th set, the ones that the first closing was going to move into that home, to remind them what time we were closing again and what time they needed to be at the title company. And she said, "Oh, we have decided we are not closing." We couldn't find a place. They were just going to rent a place for a while. She said, "We could not find a place that I would live in as a rental while we're building another home." And I said, "We have a contract. I'm going to have homeless people." And she said, "Well, I don't care. That's your problem. We are not closing." So I thought, well, I've got to sleep on this one because I'm going to have homeless people. Mm-hmm. So I decide to sleep on it before I called my people who were going to be homeless, because they had to make a decision whether or not they were going to sign paperwork, whether they would sign paperwork for the people who were going to be moving into their home. So I didn't know how that was going to play out. And so I called the next morning. Of course, I didn't sleep. I called the next morning to the first set of people who were going to be signing paperwork. And I said, do you want to go through with your closing? You have no place to move to. These people have backed out. And without much hesitancy, they were absolutely wonderful. They said, well, you know what? Just because somebody else doesn't do the right thing gives us no reason to do the wrong thing.
Wow.
So yes, we're going to close, but where are you going to put us? I said, I don't know, because that's one of my mottos is I never leave anybody homeless. So this was my first homeless case. So as it turned out, they stepped up to the plate and they said, you know, her parents lived here. They said, you know, we can move in and live with them for just a little while. And we'll just have to put our stuff in storage. And I said, and I'll pay for all of that. And so we did that. Everybody cooperated. We found them another home and moved them in it in about a month. And everybody was happy. And, you know, I didn't know if those people would ever speak to me again. But they were good friends of mine. And they did. I sold that home again for them. And
it sounds like you really made the best of a really bad situation that they put everybody else in.
And what ended up happening with the people that didn't find a place and they backed out of closing? Whatever happened with them?
They ended up staying in that home for several years, but I would have never, ever touched it again. I promise. I never.
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with people like that.
Right.
That's crazy. What's been the happiest story, Margaret? Sure, you got a ton of happy stories.
I do have a ton of happy stories. Probably the ones that warm my heart the most are those people who have, you know, of course, always first-time home buyers because they're so excited. But a lot of times it's been people who haven't been able to get into a home, you know, and they have several members in the family and they've lived pretty meekly maybe for a while, and something happens and they can get into their first home, and it's just so joyful for them and for me. Another thing is that I have now sold to 3 different generations of people, and that is really, really heartwarming. But I'll tell you, I have one story that when I felt like the millionaire, neither one of you may be old enough to remember that television show, but years ago there was a show called The Millionaire, and somebody would just knock on your door one night and say, I brought you $1 million. Well, one of my really good friends here, who's a philanthropist, and he's bought several pieces of property to donate to an organization. And so we'd done several, and he called me one day and he said, okay, Margaret, now it's time for us to buy this home, and there's someone living in it. One of them had burned, he bought it, and then one of them had been empty that he had bought, you know, and then he cleared it out to donate to. So he said, you go find out what it would take to buy that home, and you find another home for that lady. He knew that it was an older lady who lived in that home. And so he said, you find her another home, and I want to buy her place. So I went by many times before I caught anybody there, before I caught her there. And I wouldn't tell anybody until she was there. So I finally caught her there one day. I went by and I just told her I needed to visit with her for a bit. And I said, have you ever thought about selling your home? She said, oh, no, I'm never selling this home. I'm going to die here. I said, oh, okay. Well, would you give some thought to the possibility of selling this home if we could find you one that you might like as well or even better? And she said, oh, I don't know. I'd have to talk to my son about that. I don't think so. And I said, well, all right. I want you to talk to your son about it. I don't want you to make a hasty decision, but you have your son, after you all talk, you or your son call me and let me know if that's an option. And she said, this is coming from Mr. John Doe, isn't it? And I said, well, maybe. I don't know. It's just somebody who wants to buy your home. So I was leaving. When I left there, I was leaving to go show property. And so when I am with the customer, whether it's showing or whatever I'm doing, I don't take my phone and answer during that time. Well, so I was tied up for about the next 3.5 hours. So when I get back into my vehicle to be able to answer phone calls, I had calls from her son. He had left me about 3 messages. And he said, Margaret, I just want you to know that my mom is very interested in your offer. So you call us back and we will get the ball rolling on this. So I got to take her and find her another home that was obviously much nicer. But, you know, I never said that to her when I was visiting with her, because you don't ever want to make somebody think that their home is not as nice or worthy.
Right.
And so I was able to go take her and show her some homes. And John Doe then bought her another home and then bought hers and demolished it. And so anyway, that was just a wonderful feel-good story, because I really did feel like I was the millionaire knocking on her door that day.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, I would too. What do you think has been your favorite story? If you had an all-time favorite.
I do have an all-time favorite. Here again, I was dealing with 2 people who both had more money than they knew what to do with. It was a lot out in the country club, and the one who owned it was one of my very best friends, and the one who was wanting to buy it happened to be my next door neighbor. So the next door neighbor was wanting to buy that lot because it adjoined his property. And so we made an offer on it, and I called the owner of it, who was one of my dear friends, and I said, this is the offer. And he said, yeah, I'm not going to take that for it. So he said, I'll take this amount for it. Well, it turns out we were $1,000 apart. Really a nothing amount.
Right.
But you realize I'm dealing with 2 people who have more money than they know what to do with.
So it's
I told them
thing.
More money than they had sense. So anyway, one night I'm dealing back with the owner of it, and he said, let me tell you what I'll do. He said, you tell him that we're going to have a coin toss. He said, we'll meet at your office. We'll toss a coin. He can do the tossing, calling, whatever. If I win, I'll take his price. If he wins, he pays me the extra $1,000. I said, really?
Wow.
That's what you want to do? He said, that's exactly what I want to do. I said, I don't know that he'll do that because he's very conservative. He said, just call and ask him. So I called him and I said, okay, here's the counter. This is what we're going to do. So I went over it with him and he went, huh, huh. I didn't know if that was good or bad. So he thought about that for a minute and he really laughed and he said, I'll take you up on that. Let's do that. Sounds like fun. So we all met at my office. We tossed a coin and my best bud, one of my best friends, the one who owned it, he won. The other guy didn't have any problem with that. Came in the office, signed the contract, and everybody was happy as a lark.
That's a really cool story.
That is my all-time favorite story.
An old Twin Cox, huh? When did you know that you made it in real estate, you think?
I don't know that I know that yet. I don't know. I always think my next deal is going to make me know that. But I really kind of think probably, you know, when you've dealt with 3 generations of folks,
Right.
that might be a pretty good indicator. And you know, I've been recognized with so many wonderful awards.
You're like what are you, like the all-time Hall of Fame for your franchise?
I am one of 35 people out of 180,000 in what is called the International Hall of Fame. And it is one of the most prestigious places that I could possibly be. And I don't know how in the world this little gal from Shawnee, Oklahoma made it there, but I'm with an amazing group of people.
I'd say you made some friends along the way. What I think for a lot of these stories that I'm hearing from you, kind of a common thread throughout, it's like you're telling me I was working with the seller, they're a really good friend, and then you're working with the buyer. You had both sides, and everybody just seems to be, you seem to know and be connected and be friends with. It's kind of like the old Will Rogers. I never met a man I didn't like. It seems like you're that person in the real estate this business where everybody knows, likes you, and is a friend of yours. My question is, how long did it take from the time that you got into the business to the time to where business started just kind of coming your way? I mean, you have a name, I think, in our market, which, by the way, why don't you tell the viewers kind of where your market is? I know you serve kind of the metro as a whole, but you may kind of be specifically where your office is located, kind of thing.
Well, my office is located in Shawnee, but that doesn't mean that I'm limited to Shawnee in any way. I work the metro, Edmond. I just put a really nice home in Arcadia under contract. I just closed on one in I thought it was a Yukon address. I think it is a Yukon address. I've sold big places in, oh my goodness, Washington. You know.
So you're not the agent that just stays in one zip code, which I think is cool. I respect. I was the same agent. I didn't just, advertise in one particular
closing in Muskogee
zip code.
Tomorrow.
It was Muskogee. I thought it was Stillwater.
You keep saying that. You keep.
I don't know why.
Mentioning Stillwater.
Anyway,
it's always been Muskogee.
So thank you for the correction. The question here is, so how long did it take from the time that you got into the business to the time that you just started having people send business your way? I mean, you're obviously 3 generations now. You say, how long did it take to start getting that first generation start sending you business?
I don't really know a good answer for that other than I stopped doing floor time or cold calling, obviously many years ago, probably 6 or 7, maybe 5 or 6, I don't know. But I do want to add that early on, real early on in my career, I went to one of the best classes I ever went to, and it was a big investment because it was 15 weeks. The Floyd Wickman class, Sweat Hogs.
Yep,
Sweat Hogs. Oh, listen, I went to that, drove to the city once a week, had to be there at 8 o'clock, did not leave that room until 5 o'clock. So that meant I got home at 6:30 or whatever.
Oh.
We had homework to do before the next week happened. And there were probably close to 400 people from all over Oklahoma in that class. And just so you know, I am competitive. I won the overall award at the end of that time for that class, the highest achieving person in there for the most listings garnered during that time and the biggest volume production.
Good job.
What was it?
During
how many listings?
Time. I don't even remember how many listings, but it obviously was a bunch because we would have to see, every morning from 9 until 11, I did cold calling for 15 weeks.
Wow.
So I learned really well how to get listings, get listing appointments, and obviously turn those into sales. Yeah. And then along the way, because I think we never can learn too much. I have been to Mike Ferry. I've been to, you name all the people's seminars I have been to over the years, and invested a lot of time and money into trying to better myself and to learn more. And I think all of those have been most beneficial to me.
That's awesome. What would be the best advice you've ever gotten in real estate?
Probably just keep learning. Just keep doing as many things as possible to keep abreast of all of the changes that go on, because as we know, it's an ever-changing industry. And I think that probably would be the thing that would have served me the best, is just to continue to learn.
Learning and improving. I like it. How would you describe your personality to the listeners and viewers?
I think outgoing, warm and friendly. I pretty much don't meet a stranger.
I like that. What's something that most people don't know about you that you'd like to share? That I actually can cook, even though I don't do kitchens.
Okay.
I know that's kind of funny. It's kind of a joke, is, I don't really cook. I'm a party of one at my home. And
do you have like a certain meal or a dish that you like to fix, or?
But of course, during the time when my son was home and I was a married lady, I cooked a lot, obviously, because it was important to me to sit down at the dinner table every night when you have kiddos at home. So I did cook then, but since I'm a party of one, I tell everybody I don't do kitchens, and that everybody assumes that I don't. And they know that I don't do that much, but I actually can cook. When I actually took some dishes for Easter this time, and they went, "You really cooked those, didn't you?" Yeah, I did. They were very impressed, So anyway, that's awesome. Kind of funny thing. The other thing people probably, the outside world probably doesn't know that I'm not very techy. I know just enough probably to be dangerous, but anyway, that's probably it.
That's awesome. Well, Jake, McClure also serves as our part-time PI for our show. He likes to kind of dig up the dirt, if you will. I don't know if there's any dirt, but he likes to definitely do a little bit of research on our guests and likes to prepare some additional questions. Jake, did you have anything that?
I mean, really, she covered about everything that I was going to bring up through the conversations. Being her job at Texas A&M and graduated from Texas A&M, I assume.
Yes.
But a couple questions that I have. You mentioned floor time. I don't know what that is. What would you say floor time?
Do you know what floor time is?
What I know. I mean, I know when I worked at Mathis Brothers or something, just being on the floor. But in a concept of a real estate brokerage, do people walk into real estate brokerages, or was that a normal practice?
Yes, another name for it, Jake, is opportunity time.
Okay.
Because what happens is when people call into the office, okay, and they don't ask for a particular realtor,
Have an agent on duty.
Whoever is on duty gets that call.
Okay.
And for people who just walk into the office and don't ask for a particular realtor, that person that is on duty gets them.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, in other sales because I've sold about everything but real estate until I got into real estate. But the way I kind of pictured it is the way that my other sales jobs would do it would be kind of an up system. If there's like 5 people, it would just rotate. If one person comes in, it goes to the first person that got there. And then subsequently after that, the next person comes in, the next person gets it. So when I was thinking floor time, it was something kind of like that. But okay. How has the coronavirus affected your business out in Shawnee? Have you slowed down or been more cautious or done video showings? I know you're not very tech savvy. How have you kind of, approached this strange new world?
Well, I think I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that it has slowed down all of our business. Now, I have not missed a day of work other than Easter Sunday since it happened. That doesn't mean I've had that many showings and sales, but I am still out there working. I have put a few things under contract. I lost a pretty good size one the first weekend this all started, a $605,000 deal.
Oof.
And the guy just got freaked out because the day before they started telling people to stay at home and work from home.
Right.
And he got freaked out not knowing what was going to happen next.
Right.
And he just called and he said, I just can't do this. He said, we're just going to have to back off until it's all over.
Right.
So I think it has affected all of us. Most of our agents here in the office are working from home or they're at home. How much work they're doing, I don't know. Some will trickle in and out.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still out there. I've got I was on a listing appointment yesterday and I've got showings. I had one showing this afternoon canceled but not because of that. They're coming next week, but I have showings tomorrow. And really, I've only encountered a couple of times when I've tried to schedule appointments that I got turned down for them.
Mm-hmm.
The people want to wait until everything is over before they let somebody come into their home.
Right.
So, but other than that, I mean, I'm really kind of business as usual right now.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's part everything on my end. I mean, I've gone through a couple inspections, got a couple things under contract. Everything seems to be moving right along, while the rest of the world is kind of freaking out, you know. And
Me too, Jake. And I don't run scared. I really
right,
am not
exactly.
fearful. So we're a little different from some of the other folks, though.
Right.
Yep. Okay. One of the favorite questions we like to ask all of our guests here is, who would you hire to sell your house if you were not in the business? And the rules are with this question is it can't be somebody like on your team, and it can't be me or Jake, because I know you would definitely want to, nominate us. But who would it be outside of that? Yeah.
It would be somebody like my younger self. I know that seems strange. I would want it to be somebody that had maybe gotten into the business, was kind of a newbie, but that I had witnessed, who had that same sense of drive that I have.
Do you know of anybody specifically that meets that criteria in the market working today that you know?
I don't. I don't know anybody that's quite like that.
Okay.
Because of what I have found with people is they don't like to work
right
as much as I do. And so it may be a hard situation for me to find somebody. But I would really want to do that, because I would want to help somebody who was getting into business kind of like I was, who, was a year in or so, that was building a business. Because the reason I'd like to do that is because people they accepted me. They allowed me to help them when they could have had a more seasoned realtor to help them.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does. So we're going to reframe this question a bit here. So let's just say you've got 10 seconds to name an agent to hire to sell a house, and maybe it would be the best agent that you could think of in a 10-second time frame that you would.
You want a name?
Choose. Yeah,
sure.
I want a name. I want to show some love to another agent out there.
Oh, heavenly days! I don't.
There's got to be someone that you worked like opposite side of the transaction that you were just like,
cross-sell,
that person's doing it right.
They did a good job.
Okay. Well, so they don't need to be necessarily younger or older or anything.
No, just anyone that you just feel like is doing it at a high level that you would trust with. That you would
had
trust
to sell your house.
With you. If you quit real estate today, you don't even want to do it again. Who would you hire?
You want just one person?
Yeah. Or two. It doesn't matter.
I would probably do someone either like a Brenda Kennedy or a Carol Bass.
Okay.
I
like both of them, and they're from two different agencies.
Where are they at?
Okay. No, that's all right. Perfect. That's perfect. Keep it white labeled. Names are enough. Awesome.
Okay.
Okay. And so what makes you unique, Margaret?
I would say work ethic.
I think work ethic is probably at the top of I think that would be the very top.
You're a grinder.
What'd you say, Jake?
So you're a grinder, just not afraid of hard work. Just
that's
kind of that's like me, just willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Right. I think the other thing is I'm probably unique in that I wear all this stuff that I call my God. I love jewelry and fashion and I've told you guys I don't come to work in jeans and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not me. And the other thing is I pray a lot. And I really do. I feel like God just takes great care of me. Sometimes most time fly by the seat of my pants, and he reels me in and takes good care of me. So, and I tell him every day, I said, Lord, this is the deal. If you don't send me customers, I'm not able to do those things to help other people that you want me to do. And so I get to tell that story to people in a way that it's non-offensive, and you're not talking about religion or spirituality, because I don't mention it to them. I tell them my story.
Yeah.
And so that way I get to praise God. And if they don't like that, that's too bad. They don't have to. But it's my story.
I love it. I love it. So just recapping some of the notes, I got a lot out of this. Of you, Margaret. Some of the notes that I took were you like to compete with yourself, kept bringing up the word work ethic, 60 to 80 hours a week to be a professional, listening to the phone calls, the other people in your office. You were an observer. Never leave a buyer homeless. Never leave anybody homeless. It was another motto you had. Friends on both sides. Most of the stories that you told, you're buddies with the buyer, the seller. Everybody, as soon as you make a friend with everybody you meet. You can never learn too much. Just keep learning. Pray a lot and praise God. So appreciate your time today, Margaret. I know Jake has as well, and our viewers have. Absolutely. Where can people find you? If they want to connect with you.
Well, they can call me on my cell phone. They can text me. They can send me emails. I have a website, Margaret Davis at realtor.com. I believe my website is Margaret Sells Oklahoma, Margaret Davis Sells Oklahoma. I really don't know. I'd have to ask my assistant.
Okay.
But my cell number is 405-997-9500.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey, thank you so much. It was great.
Bye.
Thank you all.